Hey everyone, so this is going to be the first video of a new series that I'm going to start that I'm really excited about. So it's more of kind of an interview podcast theme, format that I'm going to start peppering into my normal videos. So the idea is to spend like 30 to 60 minutes, interviewing an engineering professional, all the way back to kind of their experience through college, the transition into their professional career all the way up until now. And I'm going to kind of gear it toward, I'm going to kind of, direct the conversation toward providing you the viewer with a lot of good insight, lessons learned, and things that can help you guys out as you go through school and you transition into professional life. And the plan is to interview all different types of engineers, academic advisors, professors, high-level management professionals. So this will be hopefully the first of many. So if you guys have any suggestions for, things you want me to ask, things you'd be interested in hearing about, feel free to put stuff in the comments and I will kind of gear the future videos based on what you guys want to hear. So I'm excited to, share this first interview with you guys. It's with a buddy of mine named Brad West. He's an electrical engineer and he actually almost flunked out of high school and ended up going through electrical engineering. So he has a really interesting story and I think he has a lot of good insight and advice for you guys. So with that, let's jump into it.
Everybody, this is Brad West. He was kind enough to agree to be my first interview on this channel. I'll kind of let him go over what kind of engineer he is and kind of, where he went to school and kind of what he's doing now to give himself a little bit of an introduction. But thanks for joining us, Brad, and I'll let you take it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jake. I've known Jake for a while, and he's been a good influence in my engineering journey a little bit. But I studied electrical engineering. I started at the community college out here, Salt Lake Community College, and transferred up to the University of Utah. Um, yeah, go Utes.
That's right. Um, so you study electrical engineering.
Yeah.
Perfect. So can you tell me um, why? What was the kind of spark that you experienced to want us to go into electrical?
Yeah. So originally, I was kind of a deadbeat. I barely made it through high school. I graduated taking like summer class packets and almost ended up with a GED rather than a regular high school degree.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. All I wanted to do with my life was skateboard and snowboard.
Okay.
Yeah. So uh, I had, my parents were pushing me to do something with my life. I had a dad who kind of influenced me to go into learning a trade, and I went to soldering school and learned how to work on circuit boards and solder. I found that really interesting. Um, I wanted to like electronics always intrigued me, and I ended up starting a little side business fixing and repairing and modifying Xbox game consoles. And I got to a point where I learned that I had to actually go to college and take some harder courses and kind of dedicate myself to learning more technical things if I wanted to pursue that passion of mine.
Interesting. So was there a gap between your high school and college?
Yeah, yeah, pretty big. I finished high school in 2006, and I took some college classes after, but I didn't really start taking college that seriously until like 2015, 2016.
So how much college had you finished before you decided on electrical?
Um, Not very much, just like a couple, like an English class and a math class and some general education stuff.
Not
Just
too bad.
yeah, stuff that was aimless and didn't really feed into engineering a whole lot, which is kind of
Sure.
important, I think, if you're thinking ahead.
It's well, yeah, you're not like me. I took 3 years of communications before I decided that that wasn't for me and had to start all the way over on mechanical.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, so tell me about, what was your experience like going from, high school into the like engineering college curriculum?
Um, it was different. In high school, I felt like all I had to do was, show up to class and they gave me a grade and they gave me credit. Um, with the whole the packets thing that I did like I think 2 semesters of high school English in like a weekend. Um, so you could just like blast through that stuff. It's yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then once I went to like the community college and started, having to actually kind of put work in outside of the classroom, that was a pretty big change.
Did you have some failures in there? Like did you fail some exams or did you have to fail some classes before you kind of, realized you needed to step it up?
I did. Calc 2 was the big one because as soon as like I don't know, there's a big reputation with calculus, especially in high school and areas like that.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I felt like as soon as I got through Calc 1, I was like, sweet, I got this made. This is easy. Like, well,
Oh
not
my,
easy, but like I can make it through it.
yeah.
Yeah. And the first week in Calc 2, they're talking about some really technical math problems where you have like 3D structures that are doing revolutions and you got to like figure out the volumes within inside of them. And I just kind of didn't put the work in. And yeah, I failed that class.
Oh, dude, Calc 2, I think gets a lot of people. I had the same experience with Calc 2. I'd say Calc 2 is probably one of the harder classes that you take, any engineer takes. It's
Yeah.
weird,
Yeah.
kind of random that Calc 2 is the one that, is the freaking beast.
Yeah.
Um, so you said you failed Calc 2.
Mhm.
Um, then I guess tell me, what did you change? Like what did you, in your approach and your studying and all that stuff, how did you change to kind of improve after that?
Yeah. So it wasn't like it wasn't a huge overall change.
So did you just start spending more time? Did you, start uh, like meeting with your professor? I mean, how come you've passed the second time?
I think a lot of it was finding resources online, like videos of. There's a wealth of math videos on YouTube,
Yeah.
and um, I mean, to me in my life, this was my first time failing Calc 2, but there's a handful of more than a handful. There's tons of other people who have struggled with the same material, and a lot of other people who are passionate about it and have learned how to teach it in different ways. So, kind of finding the right resources, whether it's in the tutoring center or your professor's office hours, or finding like a good YouTuber that just goes over questions and looking after example was
Did
really
you
helpful.
have, what was your favorite? Do you remember what you used?
I liked Khan Academy a lot.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I used Khan Academy a lot too. It was kind of at the beginning of when Khan Academy was getting started, but yeah,
yeah,
If you're watching this and you're having trouble with math, Khan Academy is, I'd say, probably one of the best tools out there that really dissects every single math subject all the way, from pre-algebra all the way to differential equations, and it really presents it in nice bite-sized chunks. So Khan Academy, can't recommend that one enough. um,
and the nice thing about the videos is, unlike in class, you can pause it and rewind it and rewatch the parts that are like really hard.
exactly, yeah, and kind of go over them again. He's really good at explaining that. Okay, so besides Calc 2, what were some of the harder classes that you took? That what were I guess what were the hardest classes for you in your degree?
Um, I would say that semiconductor physics was really hard for me. A lot of a lot of the difficult classes, I think, come down to the professor that you have and the help that you have available to you.
Sure.
Um, so the more specialized classes you get into, the less resources you have, like Khan Academy and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, good
All
point.
genres of engineers go through.
Yeah. It's when check becomes useless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've had classes where I've known somebody in that exact same class was uploading every single homework to Chegg,
Oh my
and
gosh.
and there'd be somewhere out in the world trying to answer these questions, and they were wrong every single
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, it's better to just freaking learn it, right? There's
Yeah,
a point where trying to, find a way around it takes longer and more energy than to just learn the material.
Yeah. And if I could expand on that note, I had a senior project partner who I'm pretty sure like cheated his whole way through engineering. He was from out a different country and he had a wealthy family and he didn't even know how to put a PowerPoint presentation together
Whoa.
and he was just struggling. I'm
Uh-huh.
surprised he even made it that far, but yeah.
So what ended up happening?
Um he was trying to pawn his work off onto me and to other people, and at those higher levels, unless you find somebody specialized who knows exactly what they're doing, you can't
Yeah.
get the work done. And so
Yeah.
this was his second time trying senior project, and as far as I know, he didn't graduate with my graduating class, and I don't know where he's at now.
Sure. Well, hopefully he figured it out. So
Yeah.
speaking of other people, did you have a study group while you were in school?
Yes. Yes, that is super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What was that experience like? Like, did you start, when did you start kind of studying with other people and kind of how did you navigate a study group? Because I know a lot of people like to be on their own, right?
Yeah.
And I guess a lot of engineers like to kind of do things on their own, which I get. But I mean, because I had a study group, um, but I wouldn't use them all the time. It was kind of like, my process would be I read the textbook, and then once I understand what's in the textbook, then I'd usually bring my study group in and we'd meet, and then we'd go over problems together, and learn all the practice problems or do homework. Um, and we kind of go through ideas. Anyway, what was your experience like?
Um, a lot of it was homework help, especially once I started getting into the courses that progress together, like the math courses and the specialized engineering courses. You naturally end up with the same group of students and the same group of people.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And if one person's struggling on a problem, it's likely that other people are. And kind of figuring out the wrong ways together and figuring out the right ways together is helpful.
yeah,
And I really appreciated it for seeing other people's views, other people's perspectives on problems and learning.
sure.
Um, that was pretty helpful.
And how often, I guess, what was your kind of study schedule like?
Um, it was whenever I could. During the majority of my college, I was doing full time or close to full time work and just about full time classes. So usually the weekends was when I would get together with other students to study, where our schedules lined up.
That's what I was just about to ask you if you worked full time, because I know a lot of people, struggle with that. So you worked full time and school full time.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
hard. It's not sustainable, but it's doable. There was some burnout in there, definitely.
Was Calc 2 the only class you failed?
No, I failed some other classes later on. Given enough time trying to work full time and school full time, and I had some external family things going on that took me away from school and work, and a mix of lack of sleep and the stress, and during COVID with the whole online thing, I was
Oh,
spending
yeah.
upwards of 16, 17 hours a day at the same desk inside my house without going outside. And so I encountered some burnout and failed a couple of classes one semester after Calc
Which
2.
which ones did you fail?
One of them was numerical analysis, like a simulating RF signals class,
Okay,
and the other was antenna theory and design.
gotcha.
Mm.
I ask because I wonder if there'll be some electrical engineers who watch this, who are very interested in kind of what other people struggle with.
Yeah.
Um, what would you say was your favorite class, and why? Or maybe
Um,
two or three.
Yeah, so I really liked the electromagnetics sort of courses, which I think it all comes down to personal preference because they have a reputation in the engineering department. That leads into the wireless and the RF and propagating signals and things like that, radiation patterns. So I really liked those courses, and I also really liked the courses that aligned with the computer science department. So digital logic and computer organization and things like that.
So I have a side story.
Yeah.
Uh, so you reminded me of it. So Brad works with me, and if you are somebody who leaves your computer unlocked and Brad is around, when you come back to your computer, there will be a little goose on the screen, and it follows your cursor around, and there's no way to make it go away. And the goose just follows your cursor around, and then you have to figure out what happened, and then you have to call Brad and say, come take this stupid goose off my screen.
It'll start dragging out memes and videos on your
Yeah,
computer.
that's right. Yeah, it brings out meme. It's like a timed, oh man. Anyway, so yeah, it makes sense. So if I remember right, there's like four emphasis that you can choose from in electrical, right? Which one did you do? Is that right?
Yeah, that is right. I focused on the RF side, the electromagnetics, partly out of interest and partly out of once I got to the point to start making those decisions in my curriculum, I was already working on an engineering team as like a technician, and that's what they did. So that
Gotcha.
kind of pushed my interest as well.
Can you tell us kind of what field you were working in?
So originally, before I took school seriously, college seriously, I got a bunch of soldering and like electronic certifications, and so I
Mhm.
was working for a while at a defense contractor, um, putting together electronic assemblies for military purposes. So there
Yep.
was lots of soldering and cable builds and electromechanical sort of just assembly stuff. And I was able to get in contact with one of the test engineering teams, and um, they were very helpful and let me transfer from working in assembly over to working on more engineering type projects. Kind
So
of,
it was like a nice kind of seamless transition.
it was before I was saw their openings. Um, I was sending out resumes left and right to all sorts of different companies and even internally to try to get an internship or a co-op position, and it was really hard for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why do you think it was so hard? Just because there's a lot of competition?
a lot of competition. I wasn't the smartest student. I wasn't the dumbest student, so my GPA wasn't the best.
Yeah.
I also noticed some of my friends in school who had 4.0s or close to 4.0s. Sometimes the social skills hold you back from getting internships and co-op opportunities as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Hope you enjoyed the video so far. If you are, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. That kind of stuff really helps the channel continue to grow. And if you're thinking about studying an engineering or STEM discipline, be sure to check out my book. This book is the comprehensive roadmap for anybody and everybody to get to graduation. So everything that I did and learned and implemented to go from a 2.0 to a 4.0 and a master's degree in engineering, it's all in here. Mindset, self-discipline, motivation, right? Stress management, time management, studying performance, and of course, exam performance. It's all in here. It's getting a ton of great reviews and helping out thousands of students all over the world. And it actually recently made the bestseller list in several categories on Amazon. So if you're a new student or you're a current student and you're just struggling a little bit, I guarantee this book will help you. It's available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. I'll put links in the description for everything. Thanks for the support, and back to the video.
You worked in defense. So let me ask you this: Did you have your company pay for your school?
I did, and that was one of the main reasons for working and going to school at the same time.
Yeah. So if you're watching this, and you're, I guess, looking or interested in trying to find different ways to pay for school that don't involve loans, there are a lot of companies that will do tuition reimbursement. Um, so basically, as long as you meet some minimum requirements, usually it's GPA, um, and usually they like you to study. Well, I shouldn't say that. They'll let you study whatever you want usually, but um, they will reimburse your tuition. So, and I would say kind of a win-win, at least in Brad's situation, is he worked at an engineering type company that then he was able, that paid for his school, and that he ended up being able to just go on and work for after he graduated. There's a job lined up. And it was the same situation for me when I was in school. So I worked at a defense contractor, and same one that Brad works at. And they paid for my last 2 years of school, and then you just move right into your kind of engineering position after that. So there's a lot of companies that do it. I would say defense, if that's kind of something you're interested in, is a really good kind of consistent, type of company that will offer tuition reimbursement. And if you're struggling to find a co-op or an internship, what Brad did is, I think, a really good alternative, because it gives you really good kind of hands-on applicable experience in the engineering world, right? Soldering, assembling, working with engineers every day. So and I think the same can be said for the medical industry. There's a lot of companies that work in the medical industry, assembling all sorts of stuff that I think is a similar kind of thing. So if you're struggling to find an internship, which a lot of people do, I think something like that, something like Brad did, where he's an assembler or technician at one of these kind of companies, is a good plan B. I think I would say it's almost just as valuable as an internship. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, in personal experience, I think it's just as valuable as an internship.
I would say even more, because the stuff you learned as a technician, it was, a lot of times co-ops and internships, at least from my experience, when the intern comes in, the engineering team is kind of like, kind of struggling and trying to figure out what to give the intern to do, and
Mhm.
it's just a lot. It's not, I would, the skills that you learn as a technician or an assembler, at least at our company, and I think a lot of other companies, are very solid and very defined and very like applicable, right? Like soldering, assembling, and reading engineering drawings, and all these kinds of things, I think, are super valuable. So I think the way that you went makes a lot of sense. And we know a lot of people that we work with, right, that did the exact same thing you did and ended up
Yeah.
going down the same path. So you said you failed like 3 to 4 classes. How did that,
Yeah.
I guess, what did that do to your psyche? Did that kind of mess with you?
Um, the Calc 2 did a little bit because it was earlier on in my college career, but I felt like I was exposed enough to Calc 2 already that I didn't want to throw in the towel or change majors yet. I had learned enough and I already knew the curriculum that it actually made it easier the second time going through, because I was already exposed to the information, and I was almost able to learn it a second time, which makes it easier.
Did you have some experiences where you wanted to kind of throw in the towel?
Yeah, but I was too stubborn to.
Nice.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
think
think I think everybody has one or two
yeah,
where they kind of entertain, quitting.
yeah, and I don't
Especially.
know if this is applicable to keep in your video or if you'll edit it out, but there was a joke at the engineering department at the college that I went to where there were some beautiful buildings up there, like architecture and stuff, and one of the main engineering buildings has a patio outside that's a couple
Oh,
stories up.
jeez. I know what you're going to say.
And they always had it locked, and everybody knew the reason they had it locked was because if it was unlocked, like there's so many stressed and depressed students up there that there were rumors that somebody jumped off of it.
It
And
did happen.
yeah,
It did happen.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's hard and it's stressful, and you can even notice the difference in the atmosphere walking from the engineering area over to like the common area on the college or the business area,
I
or
know. Yeah.
it's like people are having fun up here. What?
Yes.
Why are they
It's
smiling?
it's a totally different environment. I know. I mean, when I switched from communication to engineering, I had my group of friends who, we would party on the weekends and have all sorts of fun, right? It was like I had like the normal college experience, right? Where it was just like, football games and partying and, girls and everything. And then
Mhm.
once I switched to engineering, it was like I might as well have moved across the country.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's one thing to note on. Like, you give up a lot of things to get that engineering degree. I think it pays off in the end, though.
That's what I was just about to ask. How do you feel about that? I mean, you think it was worth it?
It was like I I hadn't made a lot of like I think having a job that I find engaging and interesting on top of the money aspect of it. Um, like I remember right after like a few weeks after I finished school and graduated, my water heater went out. And I had somebody come over and look at it, and there was a lot of things that were out of code. So instead of just replacing the water heater, they needed to redo some gas lines and some ventilation lines and things like that. But I didn't have to worry about it financially, which was like so crazy to me that if that happened earlier in my life, that would have hit the bank account and hit the wallet really hard for
Oh
a few
yeah.
months. But being able to handle things like that in life is nice. It's
No, for sure. I think
huge peace of mind.
I think it's kind of taboo to talk about, money being a motivation for engineering, but I think it's totally legitimate.
Yeah.
You make comfortable money as an engineer, and that's a really important thing nowadays.
Hmm.
And it's okay to be motivated by that. I don't think it should be your only motivation, but um, I think it's a super important thing, especially when you're going into school and trying to figure out what to study, because
Yeah.
life costs a lot of money, especially nowadays, and school costs a lot of money. So I
Hmm.
think it's important that you get a return on your investment, essentially.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah. So if you were to, kind of looking at your school experience as a whole, if you were able to go back and, meet your freshman self, I guess what would you, kind of give them or give him, advice on, three, what are kind of your top pieces of advice that you would give to past Brad?
Um, I think one of them would be explore, like, look into and explore different options in engineering and sciences as a major. Um, Looking back at what I know now, like I have no regrets studying electrical engineering, but I might have possibly earlier on in my college degree switched over to either maybe computer engineering or possibly even like a physics major.
Interesting.
I work with a lot of um, people in my engineering group and other engineering groups that I interact with that have physics degree backgrounds, and they are really smart people. And I admire a lot of people that know the information that they know.
So that's kind of an interesting thing. So if you major in physics, as your coworkers did,
Mhm.
you can be hired as an engineer. Um, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
And I have a family friend who studied physics, and he went and worked for Disney, just doing animatronic stuff and things
cool.
like that.
Yeah. So you don't have to, major in something with engineering in the title to necessarily go become an engineer out in business or out in industry.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I,
Okay, that's interesting.
I do have to say though, like if you study just pure computer science, it would be harder to transfer over from the software side to the hardware side.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, but
gotcha.
vice versa, the other way around. I know a lot of electrical engineering engineers who do software and physicists who do software, but going from software over to hardware is a little different.
I graduated with someone in mechanical who went hardcore into software, and that's what he does now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you don't, it's not very strict, right? You can kind of go down different paths. Because I get a lot of people that email me very concerned about like what do I major in? You know, do I major in this or this or this? It's like, I mean, it you know, a lot of the degrees really sample um, from the whole engineering world, you know. So I think you can kind of, no matter what you major in, you can really kind of choose which path you want to go down career wise afterwards. It's not, you know, set in stone, which I think a lot of people need to know. Anyway, okay, so that's cool. So that's one piece of advice you'd give yourself. Were there some more?
Um, just don't give up, no matter how hard it gets, even if you think you failed. Honestly, like the universities and the colleges, as soon as you get into the engineering program and you're paying them money, they want to keep getting your money. And so if you have to retake a class and you just
What? Yeah,
they're happy to keep you because you're going to
yeah,
keep staying there and you're going to continue taking classes, and they
sure.
want those numbers for the degrees. And
So,
another,
so you're saying that if you fail, they're will that a lot of times they're willing to work with you, right?
yeah, you need to be outgoing about it.
Yeah,
Be transparent and honest to yourself, and go talk to your academic advisor and be honest with them.
yeah,
That was the thing that helped me the most is going to my academic advisor, who was really good. I've had academic advisors who were terrible, but I'd go and talk to her and say, "Hey, look, this was my situation this semester. This is what I was going through. I know I didn't pass my classes, but I want to keep trying."
sure.
And if you connect, like you reach out to people on a human level, they'll uh, everyone on the campus is there to help you out, except for a
Yeah,
few professors. But
yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's always a couple. Okay,
yeah.
cool. I agree. So yeah, I mean, I think there is a, you know, some people have a um, maybe a misconception about engineering that or an expectation that when they come into school that they you know, need to pass everything, and you know, maybe a little bit of an imposter syndrome kind of thing where you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't belong, you know, all these other people are so much smarter than me, um, and you know, there's no way I can do this or whatever, and I think the expectation should be, obviously it's challenging, but like if you think about it this way, right, like if I take, you know, think about other things that are hard, like taking, you know, a 3 point shot in basketball. You don't expect to make all of them, right? With practice, you'll start making a lot of them. But like anything else that's challenging, you're going to fail sometimes. You know, you're going to fall down and you're going to fail an exam here and there. You're going to fail some classes. And that's a big thing I want to, I think, uh, emphasize with these kind of interview videos is that every, you know, engineering students aren't all straight A, you know, pass every class people, right? A lot of them, you know, I'd say the majority of them fail and have to retake stuff, and they just learn along the way, right? So I think that's a really good one. I would give myself the same advice, right? Just like, hey, this is, you're gonna fall down, and it's just, what's the Batman quote? You know, where he's like, the important thing is to get back up, you know, Mr. Wayne or whatever. I might have murdered it, but whatever. So, okay. So that's interesting. So then you graduate, and then we already kind of talked about this, but you went right into, did you just have a job lined up right away, like after you graduated?
Yes and no. Like I was already working on an engineering team, and they opened up a spot for me to move up from a technician to, you know, full blown legit engineer. I still had to interview for it and compete against other applicants, but since I was already working the job and I knew the ins and outs, it was a shoe in. It was easy.
Yeah.
I also one thing I would advise is to apply for other positions, even if you're a shoe into one,
Mm.
just to see what's out there. I was able to negotiate my salary quite a
Oh,
bit. I was able to get in total 4 different job offers within a month of
wow.
graduating, and having that leverage financially was helpful.
No doubt.
Yeah.
There, you know, I tell this to a lot of people at work, or, you know, up and coming engineers, where it's like there are only so many opportunities that you'll have in your career to have influence over your salary, right?
Hmm.
And when those opportunities are there, you need to like maximize it, right? So, like you
Hmm.
say, um, get some competitive offers, and those can really be valuable in leveraging, a higher salary for sure. So, what other advice do you have for students that are close to graduation? As far as like getting a job and how to navigate all that.
I think networking is huge. As much as anti-social engineers hate that sort of stuff, me
Yeah,
included.
I
Um,
know.
like
I
I'd
just
rather
did a
just
video on that a little bit ago. I'll link
yeah,
it in the description, but I just did a video that talked
yeah,
about that. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
go watch that video.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. So going to career fairs where you can meet with potential employers face to face and interacting with them, showing them that you can get along and work on a personal level as well as a technical level. I think those two things are equally important.
Yeah, for sure. I would say communication is probably one of the most, verbal communication is probably one of the most important skills an engineer can kind of develop, right?
Definitely.
In that same video that I was talking about before, I talk about just going to interviews, apply to every single job that's, a potential. And even if you don't want the job, right, just go in to get interview experience, because just having interview experience is like huge. I mean, I used to be, when I was in management, uh, the interview is basically what I judged most everything off of, right? I mean,
Hmm.
when you actually meet the person and, kind of what skills they have to communicate. And anyway, they're just, interview experience is so, interview skills, you know, is, I would say, one of the most underrated things that people can learn how, to work on. Anyway,
I agree.
yeah. Okay, so you said networking and just learning how to communicate.
Yeah, yeah. And even if like still on the subject of interviews, it's kind of like failing classes. If you go into an interview and you feel like you did terrible, so what? You can still go to other ones and try
Yeah,
again. Like
yeah. And that's why I think it's so important to practice,
yeah.
because, you know, you, I guess worst case scenario is that you get an interview for your dream job, and that's the first interview you've ever had, and it's
Hmm.
like, oh crap, like you want some practice, um, for sure. Even if it's just practice, at home with your family or friends or whatever. I think it's so, you know, the if you think about the potential impact that an interview has on your life, then it's like, oh, I should probably be good at these things. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's a skill you'll use for the rest of your career.
Oh my gosh, it's so big, um, for sure. I don't think I have one, but I am gonna make a video completely dedicated to kind of interviewing and, how to be better at interviewing.
That would be useful.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. So tell us, without super specific stuff, what kind of engineer, what kind of career did you go into?
Um, so I went into
Or what's the title? What's your title?
I think technically my title is just electrical engineer.
Is
Um,
it?
yeah.
Isn't it like test equipment engineer or something or something? Or am I
Oh,
being dumb?
yeah. So yeah, my title is electrical engineer, but the group that I work on is special test equipment engineering.
So tell us a
Um,
little bit more about that.
so the engineering work that I do is not necessarily on like products or widgets. It's more on testing those products or widgets and creating systems and designs around automating tests on these things. I work a lot with antennas in a couple different antenna ranges.
Uh huh.
Um, and so I work with the hardware that goes into the antenna ranges, like RF sources and things that help characterize an antenna. And I link the hardware to the software in order to automate these sorts of tests and processes. That
Cool.
way, um, with these systems, you can get somebody to set up, bring an antenna in, put it in the antenna range, click a button, and all the automation does all the work for them. It'll characterize the antenna, tell them whether it's um, meets the specifications that we are looking for, or if um, there's things that don't work correctly, so that we can fix the antenna or rework it.
So it's, I mean, an overarching theme, and I think what most engineers do is increasing efficiency, right? So it
Yes.
sounds like in your case, it's saving time for how long it takes to test stuff.
Hmm.
You automate it.
Yeah.
That's cool. So like when there's a new design for some new, piece of equipment, they come to you to develop the test for it.
Yeah. Yeah. They tell me what characteristics they're looking for in their new equipment, and I'm able to design a test around the requirements that they give me for operating.
Cool. How do you like your job?
I like it. I like the people that I work with. I think that's a big thing. I
Yeah,
like
for sure.
being able to have a mix between being stuck behind a computer screen and actually going and having hands-on
Yeah.
projects to do
Yeah,
down in.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're actually working with the product.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I Because there are a lot of different routes you can take, right? And I think not every engineering job allows for a combination of that.
Yeah.
Um, so I think I agree with you because I've experienced both, where you're kind of behind a computer the whole day, and then another, and then what I do now, where you're similar to you, where you kind of have a nice combination of both.
Mhm.
Well, cool. So, what was what was your experience like going from school into like the real world, like your professional career? What was your experience like, compared to kind of, I guess, your expectation?
Yeah. So my experience might be a little different than somebody else's, since I already worked kind of in the industry in a
Sure.
very entry level position.
Yeah.
But what I found is um, getting the engineering degree and transitioning from working an entry level position to working my way up to on an actual engineering team is the amount of flexibility in your job, and the amount of freedom that you have is different in your job, which is really nice. My schedule is a lot more flexible. My vacation time is quite flexible as well, and I get a little bit different vacation compensation compared to an entry level position. Um, so yeah, it was a good transition. Um,
So when you say freedom, you mean like there was a lot more work-life balance.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
gotcha. And that's not everybody. I would say the majority of engineering jobs, at least that I know about, are, I don't know if you guys are watching, whoever's watching this, and maybe put in the comments what your average hours per week are, because I feel like it's probably 45 to 50 is typical in engineering, is kind of what they require. But that was going to be the next thing I asked you, was what is your work life balance like?
It's pretty good. I typically work 40 hours a week. I have discretionary vacation. They call it unlimited, but it's like it's more discretionary,
Yeah.
where you can take as much as you want. It was really nice. This last year, I had a snowboarding accident and had to have two different surgeries on my knee, and I was on
Mm-hmm.
crutches for 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to take time off, still paid, to recover was really nice.
That is really nice. I mean, oh man, I mean, yeah, I would say that's some of those, I guess perks, right, or benefits that some. Usually, it's the larger companies that kind of offer that kind of stuff, and I think it's very valuable. Okay, so to go back a little bit, what? Oh no, I think I already asked that one. Never mind. I already asked you what you would, advice you would give to people who are just graduating.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so was there anything, any kind of like surprising things or challenging things moving from college engineering into your professional career?
Um, I'd say the most surprising thing is the amount of technical knowledge I use on a day to day. Learning the theory and the technicality behind engineering curriculums is helpful, but on a day to day, I don't do a whole lot of technical stuff. I feel like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's the case for a lot of engineers.
yeah,
But I would say, you know, the way I had a professor put it to me this way, he's like, you're probably not going to use all this information that you're learning, right?
hmm,
Um, but as a whole, as a package, the engineering kind of curriculum, everything you learn, kind of molds you into a very effective problem solver.
yes,
And it's totally true, right? I mean, you're very logical and very rational problem solver, and you're confident. I think is kind of what you become,
hmm,
and then you basically are able to be inserted into a whole array of different positions in the real world, and you can be effective. You know what I mean?
yeah. And on that note, like, I can almost guarantee your first engineering job, you're going to be learning stuff in there that you couldn't have learned in college, and you just have to go with the flow
Yeah,
and learn it as you go. Also, on that note, it can be. I know some people who've struggled to get a job out of college, and will take whatever they can get. But as soon as you start getting the credentials on your resume, if you're in an area that you don't want to work in, I I'd give you the advice of start looking for the area that you do want to work in, so you can start learning those skills,
mm.
and you're not stuck in a job that you just ultimately don't like.
Yeah. No, yeah. That's one really I think positive about engineering is the opportunities are a lot more widespread. You can kind of move around a lot more for
Yeah,
sure. Um, that being said, I think it's important to at least try to get into the field or the job or the industry that you think you'll be the most interested in, right off the bat. Because as soon as you start working, your GPA and your degree all of a sudden become the second most important thing on your resume. The most
hmm,
important thing becomes your work experience. So if you go into, manufacturing and you don't necessarily want to continue on in manufacturing in your life, you should probably try to, that's going to be the most important thing on your resume, right? At that point. So you don't, if you want to go into, say, design or whatever you want to go into, I just recommend you try to start there. You know what I mean? Because your experience is the most important thing in order to move when you start to try to jump careers.
yeah,
I hope I got that across, well.
yeah, and also the whole GPA factor. I was surprised when I was applying for jobs around graduation time. I think like out of the 5 or 6 interviews that I had, I think 1 or 2 of them actually asked for my GPA, and I didn't even put it on my resume.
Yeah, so I was just reading an article. So the statistic is that there's only 37% of companies nowadays even care about it
Hmm.
in the hiring process, right? They care more about what we were already talking about, the kind of communication skills, technical skills, these kind of things. I'm actually going to make a whole video about that at some point too. Anyway, um, okay, cool. Uh, where are we? So where you say you enjoy what you're doing now. Where do you want to take it? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do with your I guess your career and um, professional life?
Well, finishing the engineering degree kind of opens up a lot of opportunities and a lot of doors, and it can be overwhelming to decide what you want to do with your life after, especially when you're used to just having your nose to the grindstone and doing the homework and doing the work and not having any free time. It's weird to have free time.
That's true.
But um, I one of the reasons I went into engineering was for the money, to be blatant about it.
Sure.
It was an interest of mine, which I wouldn't have been able to make it through without that
Yeah,
original
of course.
interest.
Yeah.
But I want to use my extra income that I have to invest and hopefully retire early so that I can have even more leisure time. Um,
Nice.
I, I'm thinking of moving over from the hardware over to the software side so that I can hopefully find a remote job and travel. Um,
Cool.
yeah, I know a couple different people who have found companies that don't care where they work at, and as long as they have an internet connection, they can go, you know, live in any state that they want, or even out of country, you know, down in
Yeah.
Mexico and go visit the beach every day and things like
Yeah,
that.
I feel like the software guys are, more, what's the word I'm thinking of? Kind of, they have that opportunity more than the hardware guys, you know?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. There's pros and cons because in software, you're definitely stuck behind your computer and
sure. That's
staring at a
true.
screen.
Yeah, that's true.
But
But
it
you can
opens
do it
up,
anywhere.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
But it does open up a lot of opportunities to have flexibility on where you live.
Yeah, for sure. It's
Mhm.
true. Yeah, it would be really nice for sure. Um, okay. So you said you want to retire early.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm the same. So what's your kind of plan as far as that goes? I don't know if people will be. I assume people will be interested in this stuff. So let's go ahead and talk about it.
yeah. I think my plan is to not let lifestyle creep get ahead of me.
What is that?
When when you start making more money and you're not used to it, it's so much easier to spend money than it is to earn it. Um,
Yeah,
so as soon as somebody gets a salary raise or a new job and they have um, different, like they have more available to them, they'll automatically take that and eat that up. They'll go
yeah,
buy a brand new house or a brand new car or all of the toys where it it's nice to have those things, and there's a certain quality of life that you should aim for and spend money on. But I think keeping your lifestyle in a constant state that you're used to,
yeah,
you're able to
yeah,
save more money and achieve financial goals easier and
yeah,
faster.
yeah. I totally agree. That completely happened to me. Right when
Hmm.
in your mind you're like, oh, I'm making this much money right now, but once I start making this much money, I'll be fine. Everything will be perfect and I'll be able to afford everything. And then all of a sudden you make that much money and you're in the same exact spot you were before because like you say, you know, your expenses all of a sudden they do this. You make more and then somehow you find a way for your expenses to do that. And then But you're saying as your income goes up, keep your expenses here, right? And
Yeah,
then that gap is what you're able to save and invest, I guess.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
so easy to do, whether it's eating out or
Oh my gosh.
buying
It's
new
so easy.
cars or going out with friends and picking up the tab. You want to
Yep.
be that person. But
Yep.
yeah.
It's super easy. I would give the same advice to. I mean, I'm really passionate. Both you and I are very passionate about this stuff.
Mhm.
But the piece of advice I would give to graduating engineers is, you know, uh, I mean, basically save. Try to save at least half your income. I mean,
Mhm.
I know that's not possible, especially nowadays with how much stuff costs. But the amount of money you're going to make when you graduate is likely going to be a lot more than you're used to making. And just really be cognizant of trying to put a lot of that money to work for you, right? Whether it be investments or anything. I mean, we could talk about this a lot more. It's a whole nother video, but I would just be cognizant of what your money's doing
Yeah.
once you start making a good salary.
One of my favorite quotes, and it applies to finances and also getting through engineering school, is like, today I will do what other people won't, so that tomorrow I can do what other people can't. You have
Nice.
to
That's good.
think now about your future.
Yeah, very good. So, This is great. So I guess to wrap things up, looking back at everything you've learned and experienced, do you have any kind of lasting piece of advice for, I guess, aspiring students, current students, and people who are, maybe just getting into their careers?
I say follow your passion. There's enough opportunity and enough diversity in like most STEM careers that you can move from mathematics over to engineering, from electrical to mechanical pretty easily. And it's all hard. And so unless you have like a genuine passion and interest in it, it's going to make it even harder.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, once it gets difficult, you need to have that, I guess, thing in the back of your head, that passion to keep you moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay. So you say whatever you do choose, make sure you're at least, pretty interested in it.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
passionate about it. Yeah. Cool. Well, sweet, man. We're almost at an hour now. Um, so I think that was great. What do you think?
I think it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't scare people off from engineering.
No, I think this is good. I think yeah, I'm gonna do a bunch of these. So I appreciate you being kind of the first one. Um, and I look forward to doing more. But Brad, I appreciate it, man. And I'll see you next week.
Yeah, I'll see you on Monday probably.
Everybody let us know how you liked Brad in the comments. And you can only say nice things, okay? Thanks, Brad, and I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll see
Thanks
you.
for having me.
So there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, right? I hope you like this new format that I'm going to try. I had a lot of fun making it. I thought it was pretty good. But again, I think there's a lot of room for your guys' suggestions. Let me know if you want me to ask different questions or, go focus on different things. I want to mold this so that it's the most valuable it can be for you guys, the viewer, right? So until next time, thanks for watching and keep up the good work. So I was just trying to film something and my buddy came in here. I want to introduce you guys to somebody.